It's time for another edition of Lewis at Large, 60 minutes of smart talk radio featuring guests from all walks of life in conversation with your host, Warner Lewis. So sit back and lend us your ears for the next hour. Now here with today's first guest is the host of Lewis at Large, Warner Lewis.
Well, welcome everybody to another segment of Lewis at Large. Yours truly, Warner Lewis from the flight deck. And as we say at the beginning of each one of these, and we mean it, some truly smart talk radio we hope is in your future. In this segment, extremely pleased to have an incredibly talented actress and activist, which we will talk about in depth, Loretta Switt. You know her, of course, as Hot Lips Houlihan on the TV series MASH. She has a long list of acting credits to her in film, stage, and others, and is also working on some upcoming productions that we'll be talking about. This is the 45th anniversary of the hit series MASH. We'll talk a little bit about that, and the release of a new work called Switt Heart, which is a really, really important work about the animal kingdom, some of her work, some of her artwork, and again, going back to some of her passion of taking care of those that walk on 2 and 4 legs amongst us on the planet. We're so happy to have her here. Loretta, my friend, how are you?
I'm terrific. You said some lovely things there, and thank you.
Well, indeed. We know you in many roles, but particularly from your role at MASH. But how did Loretta Switt, what attracted you to the craft of acting? And give us a little bit about the journey to get there in the beginning.
I wish I could say there was a moment in my life when I said, this is what I want to do. I never had a different thought in my head. And it wasn't even the thought that I was going to try to be in the theater. It was like, that's what I was going to do. This innocence of how easy it was going to be. It was guileless, it was innocent, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be an actor. You know, my mom, bless her, put me in dance classes, and I was singing in the choir. I was always in your face. I was a cheerleader. I was a drum majorette. I was, always out there entertaining people in some fashion. In high school, of course, I taught school, I taught dance, and now I give master classes in acting. So I was always involved in becoming that voracious reader when I was a kid, and so I would do all the characters in the book. I read late and night. Sometimes my dad and I would read a book a day. My first job as a high school student was in the public library. So I would bring home tons of books to me every day, and Dad and I would just forage. Later on in my first acting class, real legitimate acting class, I discovered that I had actually been rehearsing all my life with reading those books and doing those characters, being moved to tears or laughter or whatever. And I was actually rehearsing and developing my own craft in a way. During my first class, I functioned immediately. I understood how to recall these things. There's no one moment that I can tell you about other than, this is a funny one. Years ago, somebody asked me when I felt I had made it. And I said, I know exactly when. I was standing on the unemployment line, which, of course, got a big laugh. I said, and that's not to infer that all actors have to be unemployed. But what happened was, when I was in New York and, looking to work as an actor, I had finally gotten a job that ran for 26 weeks, which entitled me to unemployment insurance. When I stood there on that line, I realized I didn't have to do anything else but look for work as an actor. I didn't have to type or take shorthand or, all I had to do was go to class and look for work. And so on the unemployment line, I thought, I made it. I made it. I'm a full-fledged unemployed actor. So it's kind of a funny story in a way, but not too much, not so much. It really made great sense for me to feel that I had achieved a goal to just do that. That's what I wanted to do, and that's what I was going to be doing. So I hope that helps with my answer.
Well, indeed. I'm curious as to, most people would think standing in the unemployment line, the exact opposite.
Exactly.
This stinks, but I understand exactly your point of view here. Was there ever a point where you said, I need to put food on my table, I actually need to get a, quote, real job? Or were you at that point so passionate about it, you said, you know what, I'm getting unemployment, that means they consider me a real actor?
Yeah, see, already you've used language that does not enter into an actor's vocabulary is a real job. And let me tell you, it's very hard work. And it's even harder work to get that job. So, no, I was driven to get my job. That was it. That was the drive. Looking for work was a job in itself, getting it, auditioning, and so forth. And you either love it and want it desperately, and you have this fire in your belly. You don't do anything else. That's it.
Right.
And that's what I generally talk to my classes about. The motivation colors your work, colors the quality of the kind of work you're going to produce for the audience. And if you don't have that, I think it reflects in how you attack everything in your life. But if you're driven and you have that fire and you want to be creative and you want to express yourself and share it with the world, then you belong in that class.
Imagine trying out and wanting to be beginning your career as an actress. Are the standards the same? Are they different? Has the industry changed enough that it would be more attractive to you, do you think? Less attractive? Are there any real changes once you peel away all the layers of the onion? Is it still basically the same business?
Oh, it's totally changed. You don't meet people anymore. Everything is electronic. Walk into a room, shake hands, talk about yourself, read. They give you pages, maybe. Let's see how you interpret this or whatever. Or go on stage and sing you rehearse with your pianist and you sing a song, get Broadway musical, whatever. That so much of that is changed. It's all on file. They pick you out because of a number, which is wrong, or they pick you out for the way you look in that photograph, which is not necessarily all of your facets. It's. I think it cut to the bone too severely. Actors are chameleons. We can be anything. We can do so much more than a picture or even a video, unless that video contains multiple roles and you can see us do, But at that point, if you've done all that work, they would know that about you, the people who hire and fire and so forth. So it's changed dramatically in that respect. And I have to admit, I loved the journey. I loved going through the journey. It was probably a lot more difficult in a way, but I loved going out. I loved when I would audition. It was like performing. I'd get out on that stage and perform. So yes, it was an audition. You were looking for a job, but it was fun. It was terrific because you were putting yourself out there, and that's what we do. That's what it's all about. In that respect, it's changed dramatically, and I'm in a way sorry about that. I'm sure it makes it easier for everybody. Half the fun was getting out there and going for the gold.
When you were auditioning and looking at the scripts early for MASH, and again, it had come out obviously as a movie, but as you read that, what were you thinking? Wow, this is going to be a monster, or was it going to be short? What were your thoughts about that at the very, very beginning?
Number one, I was in Hawaii shooting, and when I got back, my agent called and said, I have a meet for you with Gene Reynolds and Larry Gelbart, Burt Metcalf, and have you seen the movie MASH? And I said, no. He said, well, doesn't matter. There's no script to read. There's not even sides. I'm not sure they had written the pilot yet. They were just casting. And so it was a meet. That's all it was. Talk, fun, that's it. The casting director at Paramount loved my work. And she advised me. She said, when they ask you to see film on you, and they will, don't give them anything. Tell them you'll test, you'll photograph, you'll read, but you will not submit film. Now, here was her reasoning. She said, most of the things you've done, all of the things you've done thus has been very dramatic. And it's funny, when I came from New York, I had done nothing but comedy on stage. When I got to L.A., I was cast in various heavy dramatic roles. I was like, I was getting thrown off mountains. I was jumping off buildings. I was being shot. And so she said, don't credit them with having the imagination that we have, that you have. And simply say, no, I don't have the appropriate film for you. And they're going to say, oh, no, it's okay. We'll be able to tell. And she said, trust me, they won't. They won't know how funny you are. They won't know that you can do comedy, blah, blah, blah. So I told my agent to do that, and he said, oh, dear, that's a little peculiar. And I said, no, what she says makes sense to me. And so that's what we did. Well, as it turned out, we didn't really have to, because they gave us the dates of the pilot shoot. in those days, they had dibs on you. Once they did that, they're interested and they want to know if you're available during those dates. Well, we had an offer for a movie from Universal, and I was thrilled at that. It was a good script, good art, and Olivia de Havilland, beautiful actress. So I was thrilled, and I thought, gee, this is a win-win situation. And my agent called Gene Reynolds and said, we feel obliged to tell you we've had an offer during some of the dates you're shooting. And he said, incidentally and ironically, I was just about to phone you. We've decided to go with Loretta. So basically, I never really read anything or auditioned or, however, a lot of my work had been on CBS and some of it at 20th Century Fox. CBS 20th Century Fox. So I had a lot of support from those areas for me in that role. They saw me in the role of Major Houlihan. That's basically how it came about. They had decided to go with me, and we called to say we had another offer, and they said, well, you can't have her. She's ours.
If you just joined us, yours truly, Warner Lewis from the flight deck of Lewis at Large Radio. We're talking to a talented actress. You know her well, Loretta Switt, for many years, Hot Lips Houlihan on MASH, but obviously has been a part of many, many other very successful projects, including a couple things coming up on the stage, 6 dance lessons in 6 weeks.
Yes, we just closed in Buffalo. And now I'm starting to prepare to do a tour of 6 dance lessons in Australia, New Zealand, Hong Kong, and Singapore. And then hopefully I can come back through Oahu and Maui. When I was last at the Hawaiian Theater in Oahu, they had just renovated. I was the first play to go in after the renovation. It was huge, wonderful success. My friend Jack Lord was still there. So I did Shirley Valentine there, and then we went to Maui with Shirley. So I'm hoping we can arrange to come back through those beautiful venues.
And what about the Eleanor Roosevelt, Her Secret Journey project?
We've been doing that as a one-day tour de force. The longest run I've done of Eleanor was in Laguna, where I'm happy to say we sold out. I was thrilled because for young people to take an interest in Eleanor Roosevelt, to learn what a great woman she was and be interested in it in light, especially of today's sad political situation, I was thrilled of the interest and the care and the admiration for this woman. I certainly am crazy about her. But we have only booked single dates and moved on, and they're isolated. They're here and there, and because we didn't choose to do long runs. So I did it 4 performances in Laguna. That's as long a run as I've done with Eleanor. She's still on the table. Let's say there's a small lapse between Hawaii and my next booking in the States. If there's a call for her, just as Shirley Valentine was the same way, although I did long runs, is one person plays are portable, so they can call last minute and do a filler of one day, or somebody drops out, or you know what I'm saying. So that's why I think of her and Shirley as have bag will travel. We've got this, we own the properties, we have the sets, and we have the costumes, and we just show up and get on stage and do Eleanor, do Shirley. Wow. Love Letters was quite the same way. So is Love Law, What I Wore. There are things that just work beautifully on stage and can be put together with some great people.
Again, you recently received the Betty White Award for Actors and Others for Animals. Let's talk about Switt Heart. Again, it's a new work released by you. Tell us about the inspiration for that and what will people find in it.
I won my first art prize when I was 6 years old. It was a doodle, trust me. It was not what I would call a work of art, but it sort of explains that I've been doodling and drawing and sketching and then painting all my life. I had a collection of my watercolor efforts on my iPad, which I was cataloging, and I was on a private plane with my now good friend and publisher, Mies Hora, who was a very dear friend of our mutual friend, John Yurchuk, who was the sponsor of the book. Well, as he was sitting next to me on the plane, and we were chatting and noshing, I was working on my files, And he was looking at these paintings and said, wait a minute. And actually, at that point, I don't think I even knew he was a publisher. He said, what is this, all this? What are those animals about? So I told him, up until that point, those paintings were used to sell and raise funds for all of my animal organizations. I'm on the board of many. I'm vice president at Actors and Others for Animals, and stuff like that. And those farm sanctuaries, telling him all about wildlife way station, all these areas in which I am involved in the community of animal rescue rehab. And so he said, but wait a minute. This is a book. You want to do a book? So I said, well, sure, yeah, what? So suddenly I was sitting down with this totally marvelous man who has a real gift for words and art and selections. He knows how to put a book together. We were going through my paintings and selecting this and doing themes, and he said, and now you are going to write. You're going to write things about each painting. And then, of course, the whole point of the book was to teach as well. There are organizations out there that people should know about and could help. Or I have so many people, come to me, what can I do? I don't have enough money to go, but what can I do? You can do a lot. I can give you a list of people, shelters, for example, who would love to know that you want to help. You can walk some animals. You have some time, an hour or so a day, go over, put a leash on an animal who's waiting to be fostered or adopted. There are many, many things. A couple of extra dollars. Give us some blankets, some sheets, some wee-wee pads, some food, whatever. So the book is all about these wonderful organizations that have devoted their lifetime to helping stamp out cruelty. And so that's what the book is about, and it's told with my paintings. The story is told with my paintings, my sort of voyage through my activism over the years. And some of the paintings are dated. I'm now starting to date my paintings, but there were a few from 1978 that I thought, were kind of good to throw in to show that I have had this manic need to paint and express myself. So he was fascinated and loved the whole idea. And as we speak, I'm working on book 2, because since the book is out, I have had several commissions and have done some paintings on my own for friends who have adopted new creatures or what have you. And so it continues. And then, of course, there were things we didn't put in the first book that we have yet to talk about. Bide-A-Wee, for example, is the oldest shelter in Manhattan. I do a lot of work with them. I just rescued 2 kittens that I took to Bide-A-Wee. Bide-A-Wee, what do? They did the blood work. They checked these animals out. They were totally healthy and fine. They ear mites, whatever. They check them out totally. They spay them, neuter them, which is the only way we're ever going to get ahead of the pet overpopulation. The only way we're going to get ahead of not killing animals every year, because there are no homes for them. So they did everything, and my foundation, which the proceeds from the book goes into. So my foundation is, in fact, today I'm bringing them a check. They did that for these 2 adorable kittens who were British Shorthair, I learned. Anyway, I went back a few days later to visit them, and they were adopted out. They were gone to a forever home, and they were adopted out together, which is what we were trying to do. They were siblings, they were close and young, so they should stay together and grow up together. And that's Bide-A-Wee. So I do a lot of work with people from Bide-A-Wee. Just recently, one of the workers in my beauty salon, my colorist, lost from old age his lovely little Shih Tzu of 17 and a half years old, which is a testament to love and care. But he was, of course, sad. And the companion, the dog companion of the Shih Tzu, was also going into depression. I said, say no more. Are you ready? He said, I am over ready. I called Bide-A-Wee. In 24 hours, we came up with 2 beautiful little Shih Tzus, 1 male, 1 female. You had your choice. But Miguel didn't even care about gender. He just said, yes, yes, yes. And we made a match. We found a wonderful marriage. He has already christened the dog Oreo, black and white. And it's another thrilling success story that I enjoy with Bide-A-Wee all the time. So that's just kind of an example of things that are in the book. I talk about Bide-A-Wee, I talk about actors and others, I talk about the farm sanctuary where I do a lot of work. We can sponsor, my foundation will sponsor a farm animal. And by that, anybody can do that. We'll send you a folder of animals, beautiful animals, they're all named. You want to sponsor this animal, your donation will feed that animal, let's say. And it can be a cow, a pig. I love goats. I'm absolutely crazy about goats. And I just did a painting of my favorite goat up there. It's an albino goat, and his name is Vincent, and he's just simply breathtaking, gorgeous. And I did a painting of him, and he's probably going to be the cover of the next book. I hope so, because I think he's one of my best works. Of course, I'm untrained, so anything that's better than the last painting, I think, is my best work. But I've learned a lot. You learn with each painting, and you have to start somewhere. I started when I was 6, so I've learned a little bit along the way. And I've had so many wonderful, warm, friendly artists, real school-trained artists tell me not to study, just do my thing. Do my thing. They said, you're doing so much of what you would be learning, that you've learned through osmosis or you've learned through, error, and keep on doing it. And so that's what I did. I kept on doing it for years. And I look at my collections and I think, oh, yes, I'm much better than that. Oh, yes, So I've learned, and that's been exciting, too, because if we don't keep learning and growing, what do we have? That's why I'm encouraged by how far we've come with animal rights and activism, how many people have joined us in caring and compassion and realizing what we owe these animals. I do work with the search rescue dogs that are out there. We have so many crises going on at the moment between the earthquakes and the storms and the cyclones and the things. So those dogs are out there digging people out of rubble, saving lives. These beautiful, wonderful animals. Another great situation where you have a win-win situation. We'll rescue puppies, let's say. Labs are the most wonderful search rescue dogs. So we get baby labs. We put them into training to see which of these babies are going to make a good rescue dog. What do they have that inkling and so forth? Then they're trained. By the time they're 2, they're out there rescuing us. So what we've done is rescue the puppy, and now the puppy is trained to rescue us. That's a blessing. It's a miracle situation. And, of course, they're not machines, so we lose them 12, 13, 14 years old. Yeah. That's why we keep getting babies and getting replacements and keep training. So where does your money go? Into the training center at Ojai. Search rescue. A lot of these stories are in the book and gives people some insight into what they could be a part of the solution.
Wow. Loretta, again, we want to share with our listeners, how can people, we start to wind down here, where can people find out more information about the work that you do, pick up a copy of the book, and any websites or any contact info for us?
Sure, absolutely. www.Switt, one word, capital SWIT, that's my name, Heart, HEART, a play on the word sweetheart, obviously. So www.SwittHeart.com. You can buy the book online at SwittHeart.com. And we ask you, if you're going to buy the book, please do it on the website, because all of the proceeds then go into the foundation. If you buy it through Amazon, let's say, you have to know they're keeping 55% of the proceeds. So fewer dollars go into probably the reason you're buying the book to begin with. So we ask people to please buy it on the website if they have a choice. If not, certainly get the book and read it and see it.
Indeed. Well, you knew her as Hot Lips Houlihan on MASH, but now she is involved in some medicinal work in another way. Award-winning actress and activist Loretta Switt. Brand new work called Switt Heart, the watercolor artistry and animal activism of Loretta Switt. Thank you so much for the theatric work and thespian work you've done, but also for looking out for those creatures that walk amongst us. And thank you again so much for spending some time with us today.
Well, it's been fun, and I've chatted. My mother used to call me Chatty Cathy, but if you put me onto a subject that I love, there's no stopping me. I just go on and on. So it's on you to stop me. It's on you to say, okay, that's enough, Loretta. Okay, we got it, Loretta.
Okay. Well, listen, thank you again so much. We'd love to have you on again sometime.
I'd just absolutely love to.
We'll be back with more right after this on Lewis at Large.